All right. Sorry about that. I was a couple minutes late. I actually, unfortunately, when I hit to go live, it went to my regular personal news feed instead of here to this page. So, um, anyway, hopefully people will find me. So, as always, if you want to say hi in the comments, it's always great to see who is out there, who's watching. So, um, well, welcome to day 2 of working in what I'm calling my emergence journal. So that's the theme that I've picked for this little journal. So I was kind of looking around, trying to think like, okay, what am I going to do? Um, I'm really trying to force myself to work in a slightly different way. I mean, right off the bat, it's a small journal. It's much smaller than I typically work in. You know, I usually have that big journal. So I wanted to yeah, try to force myself, try to work a little bit more out of my comfort zone instead of just doing what I do in the big journal. So I did that yesterday by kind of working with the color and having the color sort of go from one page to another. I also worked with some texture and some lines and some mark making. Also did a little bit of pencil. So if you missed any of that, you can always go back and watch that at your leisure. But today I was thinking, okay, what do I want to work with? And my first instinct was, oh, I'll use my Inktense pencils, and I really love my Inktense pencils. But again, trying to like think about how I might do things differently because this is a different experience. It's a smaller journal. It's a more intimate space. It's something where I'm really focusing on a theme and not just sort of documenting life. So I decided, well, I'll go ahead and I'll do collage. So as I was flipping through the pages, I really felt like I think I want to do some collage in there. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. If you want to kind of follow along, you can. If you're just making art, if you're just watching, awesome, awesome, awesome. But again, if you're tuning in and you want to say hi, you can pop into the comments and say hi. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch this over, talk about what I have, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so I've got my little journal. It's nice and dry. I put it underneath. Actually, I put it underneath my paint trays, and that was enough to sort of flatten the book. And then the pages aren't as curled as they were. They're nice and dry, and they're ready to go. So I was flipping through it, and I was really thinking like, okay, I might use my Inktense pencils to put some shapes. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn to collage. So I've got my scissors. I've got my glue stick. This is my favorite Uhu. It's the glue stick that I've been using ever since I started journaling 20 some years ago. So that's my favorite. And then I've just got a stack of fodder, of collage materials, of ephemera. And I consider these sort of generic and generic kind of fodder. It's not heavily meaningful. Yeah, I mean, this is text, it's pages from a book, got some security envelopes, got some maps, but they're sort of just more generic. And they create some texture, some color, um, but they don't go very far about like creating meaning yet. And so it's one of the reasons I love to use them. So I have an old book. It's actually Edgar Allan Poe that I ripped pages out of. I've got the security envelopes. Like a lot of folks, I pay my bills online, but of course, they always come with all these different interesting patterns. So I really love to use them. And then maps. So I got an old atlas, old paper atlas, and tore out one of the pages. So on one side it was Idaho, on the other side I think it was Illinois. So I'm going to use those just to sort of create, just starting to do some layering. So I did some layering yesterday, like here I did the lines, I did the splatters, and I did the graphite pencil. So I'm going to kind of continue, and I'm going to work with some collage. Maybe I won't do collage on every bit of paper, but who knows how I'll move through this. But again, I'm really thinking about how to push myself, how to do things a bit differently. A lot of times when I do collage, I'm cutting lots of straight lines, doing strips, doing squares and rectangles. So again, with this journal, I just kind of feel like I want to do things a bit differently. So anyway, I think I'm going to start with some of my security envelopes. So I like this one. This one has some really interesting blue. So all I do is I just trim off where it's folded, and then it'll open up and be easy to access the inside. So I just find that the security envelopes, you know, everyday stuff. I mean, stuff that we just get in the mail, and you know, oftentimes we just either throw it away or throw it into recycling. I don't think too much about it, but it's like it's got this wonderful patterning on the inside. So I'm just thinking like, okay, how can I do this again? How can I do this a little bit differently? So I think I'm going to go ahead and tear and kind of see what happens with that. See, I'm thinking like something like this. The one issue with this book that perhaps I don't know if I like it yet or not, or don't like it, but it's got curved corners. And so I'm so used to having pages that have, you know, nice right angle corners, but you know, this could be just sort of interesting that this kind of sticks out there. But then, you know, I think I like it. I think I like you know, it's got this direction to it. And I think I kind of like it going in a different direction, I kind of liked it up here like this. All right. So I think what I want to do, go ahead and cut this off. All right. So I'm thinking I'm going to glue it up here. I think what I'll do, because of that corner, because of that rounded corner, I'm going to turn this over. Maybe line up that edge that I cut already. Let's see, what did I do with my pencil from yesterday? All right, so I got a pencil and I'm just going to trace, and that's going to give me just a line to cut on. Okay. So over here underneath all my stuff, I've got this pad, and this is just a freebie kind of sketchbook that somebody gave me at some point. It was from a conference actually, and I've used it for years, and you can kind of see it's got all this like texture on it, and that's because it's my glue paper. So I just take and you know, I can flip through it, and some people use old catalogs. Back when you could get phone books, a lot of people would use phone books, but this just keeps my glue tidy. I don't get it all over my book. I don't get it all over my work surface. And then that way I can spread the glue all the way from edge to edge and get some effective gluing. Because I know there are some folks over the years I've heard from different people who, you know, they're just like, I don't like glue stick. It just doesn't work for me. And I just always think like, okay, well, maybe you're just not using it effectively. So yeah, so anyway, so that's there, and I like that, but just that little bit is a little bit unbalanced, and I'm always kind of concerned with sort of keeping things kind of balanced. So I think what I'm going to do is have a piece come in from the bottom. So let me go ahead and cut this straight across, and then I can tear again. I'm trying to change things up. Have that work in, and then that starts to create some balance. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm still not thinking about the meaning, about the theme. I mean, I'm kind of letting that play around and maybe kind of rattle around in my brain for a while, but I'm not too concerned with, like, really right now thinking about how am I going to create meaning with this. So I'm just trying to, just like I did yesterday, just trying to work on getting some things going. Just playing around with where that might be. That's kind of cool. Then I like how that's a little bit more horizontal than straight up and down. I do want to think about how, one thing relates to another. So I think it'd be kind of interesting if this sort of looked like it wrapped around. So let's go ahead and do something. Let's cut this straight. Oh, I got it. I'm like thinking that might be interesting, kind of sticking out like that. So then, when I'm turning it, I see that, oh, okay, that looks like a continuation. Sometimes I'll actually fold the piece over. Maybe I'll do that next. So if I have a piece like this, maybe like that. And then what I'll do is I'll put glue on it and I'll wrap it around the edge. That's another thing that I do. So here I cut it, but it still looks like it's kind of been wrapped around. And it's all because of that rounded corner kind of throwing me off. Okay, I'm feeling like I do want to have some of this text in here. But instead of ripping it, I am going to cut it. But I'm going to cut it so it's in a strip. I'm going to cut a strip of it. And that way it just becomes more of a sort of visual texture. So then I can trim off the top. One of the things that I can do, instead of using a pencil, I can fold. So if I take my finger and rub at the bottom of this, it will bend and fold the end of that strip. And so now I know where to cut it. So the nice thing is this is all covered with glue now. I can just turn it. Clean page. And like I said, I've used this for years. I kind of cut this a little crooked, which it's not that big of a deal, but I think I want to straighten it up a little bit before I glue it down. Okay. Sometimes I think people don't like to use glue stick because it can kind of peel off, especially most glue stick is water soluble. And this is no different, the Uhu is water soluble, but it is acid free and it sticks really well. But if I were going to paint over top of it, which I do a lot of, I would hit it with a hair dryer. But because I'm just kind of focusing on collage right now, and I'm not going to use any paint, I don't have any plans on using paint, I'm just going to leave that and let it dry naturally. So now the question is, like, I don't always have to have it flow from one to another. So, these first few pages, it's like the collage and the paint sort of flows from one page to another. So here, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I've got this collage, I've had this. I could put another strip here to make it look like this wraps around, but it could just be like to tie things together. If I have the text here, I might just want to have a little bit of text over here. So maybe what I want to do is cut this straight. I'm thinking about having just a little bit of text there, but then I will rip it, and this will kind of help tie it in. So text, turn it. Oh, there's more text. So this looks a little bit empty, so I think I want to go ahead and put some of this text elsewhere. And I always just like to go back and sort of flip through, see what I've done. So I'm thinking I'm going to skip this without any collage right now. maybe go here, and then maybe I'll do part of the map. Kind of like this side that has a lot more roads and things, a little bit more visual texture. So I think what I want to do, I think I want to have some sort of oval shapes or circular shapes. So I'm going to cut this down, make it a little bit easier to handle. I think I want this book to have more of a natural feel. So instead of using stencils, I do have some circle stencils, or I could use something circular and trace it. I think I'll just sort of freehand it. Maybe do another little circle. And maybe even a third one. I work a lot in threes. If we think about a triangle is probably the most stable shape, has three sides, three corners. And if you look, a lot of bridges are built out of triangles because they are so stable. So if I have three circles, now I have a triangle. This one I got a little bit, let me trim this off. So that's just something I kind of always think about as I'm doing it. It could be interesting if one of them goes off the edge, maybe that will get wrapped around. That could be interesting, even if it's just a little bit. Okay. So let's go ahead and glue these down. So I like the maps. First of all, it does give us the suggestion of place. One of the reasons I like maps, but I also just like that visual texture that it gives. You know, the map is printed on white paper, but with all the roads and all the different colors, it just gives it a bit of a different texture, visual texture. So I left that stick over just a little bit and then wrap that around. So now, you know, that oval, that circle kind of goes off the edge, but it literally wraps around. And we get just a hint. So it might be really interesting to have, I'm thinking a bigger one over here that then wraps around to here. That's what I'm thinking. What I was doing there for a second. You might hear my little dog Nick barking in the background. Who knows what he's barking at? I also have my window open, so you might hear some sounds from the outside as well. Some birds or some lawnmowers. Okay. So I'm getting into those pages where I don't have any paint, but collage is a really great way to get some things started as well. So I'm going to turn back into my envelopes here. Actually, maybe I'll try a different one. This is always a good one. So what I find is that there are certain companies that, it's like they use a certain pattern, and then some companies actually use the pattern inside is based on their own logo. And I don't think I like that as much because I just like these generic patterns. And then these windows are really interesting to play with, so I always try to keep those. So here I'm trying to just cut and have a strip right along. So like that window could be really interesting later on, or it might get glued in that way. Who knows? So, but I'll definitely keep that. Yeah, I like using collage a lot for kind of big lines or stripes or strips. Just creates a nice visual element. I'm gonna wrap that around. And I do want to try to like fill that in. Maybe, let's see. Actually, no, I kind of like that. But what I can do, since I have this little piece here, then I can maybe put this one over here. Just trying to think which direction. Thinking straight up and down. So it's interesting to like kind of skip some pages. It always just gives like kind of a little bit of a rest. And just thinking about how these become kind of visual beats, visual rhythms. They have a lot of texture. Then when you come to a page that doesn't have that, it's like, oh, it's just kind of a bit of a rest. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go ahead and did that. And I'm gonna skip. I think I'll skip over. So I'm to the point. Right here's where I stopped yesterday with that pencil. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and skip this, and I'll come to this one. And then maybe this is where I'll finish up because I'm going to do something a little bit more involved. Since this is empty space now, I don't have anything there. I'm going to use the collage as a way to really get something started. I'm going to use that map. Switch my paper. So I love that the visual texture that the map brings. But I'm going to kind of bump that up, I'm going to rip up the map and create just a bunch of torn pieces that I can pick from. Rip off where I cut. So that might be enough to get started with. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start gluing these in kind of randomly, but I'm going to let them overlap, put them in different directions, let them wrap around the edge. I mean, I could easily just cover this whole thing with one piece of the map, but I really like doing this just because it recontextualizes the map. I mean, we see it as a map, but then it's harder to kind of decipher precisely where it is. So, we see all the things that make a map. We see all the roads, we see names. So when I cover the kind of center fold, I do want to make sure that it does fold and open up. So I'm not going to cover up all the white of the page. I could if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave some. Oh, I wish I knew what that little dog was barking at. He just likes to bark. think that's, I'm going to wrap up the collage there, but I think I want to do something else now that I'm thinking about it. Get that out of the way. Okay, so you just kind of go back. Like I said, I always like to go back and start to flip through. So I've got, you know, lots of little things going. I don't know how many spreads I've started. Looks like I have about 13 spreads started. So I'm about, looks like I'm almost halfway through as far as getting some things started. You know, and some of the pages have very little going on right now, but you know, they're still starting. All right. So what I was thinking, I grabbed a pen. So this is a Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen. I use that, or sometimes I'll use a Uniball Vision pen. So here's the Uniball Vision. Those are kind of my two favorites. Here lately, I've been using the Faber-Castell Pit Artist pens because they have a lot of different colors in them. So this is called Magenta. So it's going to tie in with a lot of the colors that I used. I was looking for a red. I guess I have an old one. It just doesn't draw very well. And I thought I had ordered a new one, but maybe I didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you know, I was doing these sort of mapping marks yesterday, these pencil marks that look like maybe wandering roads or whatever. I'm going to do something a little similar too. Just, you know, kind of echoing and playing around with those same type of marks. So just like yesterday, I'm going to try to line them up so that they go from one page to another. The nice thing is that when this line goes over the collage, all of a sudden that collage gets pushed down into the page. So if you've ever done anything with collage and you kind of feel like it's just kind of floating on top, it could be that it, you know, it's floating on top. And by drawing a line over it could easily kind of push it down. Now, I don't think I'm going to do this through every single page. Actually, I think I'm going to stop on this page for now. Nice thing is I can always come back later. Okay. However, I'm going to go back. I was just thinking like it might be really interesting to do some more vertical type. So that could be interesting to have them go from top to bottom. So in my normal journaling, I tend to do a lot of geometric shapes. So again, trying to think about mixing some things up here. Okay. Again, maybe skipping some pages. So one of the things I like about maps is that it gives me some natural lines to play with. So if I look at the roads here, you know, just by extending that up, and there's one that comes over here. And again, I can flip it over. And then I got this one here. Maybe that runs over. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it quits for that for right now, and kind of stop there, and then I can come back tomorrow and do some more stuff to it. So anyway, I just kind of feel like I'm getting a pretty good start with everything, starting to build up some layers. I mean, these first couple pages or spreads have quite a few more layers than the rest, but that's kind of how I work. I tend to, because I always go back and, you know, kind of build. And then as I get to places where, oh, I need more space, I move into some new pages. So, you know, some of these pages just have collage or the collage and drawing, and there's not a lot going on. And then some of these I didn't go back with watercolor because I think I extended the watercolor yesterday. So that might be something that I do tomorrow, is to go in with some watercolor. But I think I am going to probably use my Inktense pencils. And if you're not familiar with them, they are kind of like watercolor pencils, and they're some of my favorites. But yeah, so I think that's kind of a good stopping point for today. Yeah, so anyway, that kind of takes it, or does it for day number 2. So made a lot of progress. Again, this, when you work in a smaller on a smaller scale, it's so much easier to sort of fill space and to build up layers pretty quickly. It's one of the reasons why I do a lot of small things at first, especially with some standalone work. But anyway, so that kind of does it for day 2. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Post them there in the comments, and I'll try to answer them. And then I'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m. And I'll try to get on a couple minutes early if I don't accidentally stream to the wrong thing. And then of course I always upload them to YouTube as well, so you can find them there. Don't forget that you can always find the recorded videos here on Facebook or on YouTube. And then, oh yeah, don't forget I am offering a couple new online classes, so you can always check those out. Probably there's some links there on my Facebook page. So anyway, hope you have a great day, and thank you for joining me, and I'll be back tomorrow.